Next up, we have Lars Vogler. He's our IDP product manager. Dawn Gregory, higher education solutions consultant, and Ethan will be joining us again, and they will be discussing ProcessMaker IDP.
All right, so these are just some definitions to get us started. I'll go ahead and go through the ones for my part of the presentation and then kick it over to Lars to go through yours. So today we're going to be showing you the transfer credit evaluation or articulation process. And I just wanted to make sure that was really clear what we were talking about. So this is where maybe a student has taken some courses at one institution. We'll call that the source institution. And like it could be a community college or something. And then maybe they're transferring to a four-year institution to complete their work. And that institution, we'll call it the home or the receiving institution, goes through a process to determine what those courses that were previously taken equate to at their institution so that that student can go through and complete their degree. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew subject area and course number, and this is really just kind of a code that has, you know, an alpha prefix and then usually a series of numbers to identify a unique course. And then IDP is just intelligent document processing. So those are the things I might refer to, and optical character recognition too. Those are the things I'll refer to during my part of the presentation. And Lars, if you want to go through yours quickly now.
Sure. Yeah, we have three terms here. There are regarding machine learning. One of them is precision. So what proportion of the positive identification was actually correct? So if you, for example, if you have an image of dogs, how many dogs are actually labeled as dogs? And the recall is how many dogs were missing from the picture. And to combine those, to make a balance out of these scores, we have something called an F1 score. So that's harmonic mean between those precision and recall numbers.
Great.
All right, I'll take over.
Okay.
All right, I guess you can see my screen.
Yes.
All right, we're looking at the ProcessMaker IDP interface. My name is Lars Vogelaar. I am product owner at ProcessMaker IDP based in the Netherlands. Today I will talk about document classification, especially how to create a classification model. So first, what is document classification? Basically, we are looking at a document and we're saying this is an invoice. Well, it is an invoice, but how does it get to that? So usually, if you have followed earlier demos or webinars of IDP, then this is we're already at the end state. So we're going back to how do you set this up? So there are multiple ways to do this. One way is to use value scripts to extract text from a document and then to set the attribute document type. But it can be a complex situation where you are extracting text and it differs a little bit. So let's look at these documents. We have something called invoice number here, date of issue, and an invoice total. If we go to the second document, this is just downloaded as an example from Google. Something called invoice ID, that's already different, an issue date, and an amount due, so that's also different. And then the third example, invoice number, all right, invoice date and a total due. So there are already many differences in how companies decide how their invoice looks like. And if you have many suppliers in your company, then you can think about the amount of different types that you have to extract from a document, and your regexes will become really complex. So these are just examples of digital born PDFs, but you can also have physical documents, Excel files, images, scanned documents. There could be a signature on it. And also the quality of scans can differ a lot, or people make photos of a scan and then send it. So it's sometimes really difficult to get the right text with OCR and extract the right values. So another way is to create a training model in our classification service. And all you need to do upfront is to collect the data. So that's a lengthy process. In this case, I already prepared some data, so I don't have to upload. And I've put them in different subfolders. So for example, we have claims, contracts, invoices, and all the files here I labeled as contract. So what do you have to do if you're working with the user interface? You're uploading a file, and you're setting the document type, for example, claims, setting the language, or let OCR define the language and mark it as training data. Or you can use our GraphQL API or REST API to upload your data. And when you're done, then you can go to the admin page and let's go to classification. I'll start at what types of configurations we have. So one type is topics classification, which deals with topics. In this case, we're talking about document type classification, and there are some conditions possible. I'll leave them empty for now. And we will go to the classification training. You can see that there are documents found which are labeled as training. All other documents will not be shown here. And we're training per language. So in this case, English, but you can have different models in different languages. The amount of documents that we have are claims 100, contract 20, invoice 20, and report 99. Best practice to have the best results is to have at least 100 documents per label. So let's go to the model. Sorry, if I would click train, it would create a model. I already did that. It took a couple of minutes, so that's a waste of time if I do it now. So I already did that. And what we see here that the model is finished. Let's scroll down first. And we see that the data distribution set says claims 100, contract 20, invoice 20, and report 99. That's exactly what we saw. That's good. And then we will look at a couple of things. So we will start with the confusion metrics. So this is a sample taken from the training set, and it tested if the predictions were right. So in this case, if we look at claims 25, so that's a sample of 25%, yeah, 25% was actually correct, but at report, actually one was predicted as claim. So it's not 100% accurate, or my data is wrong. In this case, I'm not entirely sure, but it can be the case that there's overlapping text, which can be used in both report and claims. And especially if you work with labels or document types which are similar but distinct, then you will have more of these examples where things might be predicted wrongly. Think about different types of contracts, words that are in both documents, but there's still something else which makes it a complete different meaning. As a human, it's easier to say, okay, this is this type of contract and this is another type of contract, but the model that we train has more difficulty because it's just based on the text that we provide. Then we have a classification report, and we see the precision again here and the recall. So for claims, it has a certain precision and recall and an F1 score, but also for the other labels. And in total, we see the average of 0.98, and that's almost close to 1. 1 is perfect, and you should strive to be close to perfect, but yeah, reality says that that's almost impossible. It's difficult to find all the documents or find 100 documents per label. And also, like I said, if you have labels which are close to each other, which are related and might look similar, then the model has problems in giving the right prediction. So if we have such a, let's say, a challenge, there's something called classification threshold, and it will give a, or by default, the classification service gives a score to each label. Suppose it is claims, and the score is above 0.5, then it's labeled as claims. But suppose the claims is 0.4 and the report also has a score of 0.4, then we don't classify it because there's no certainty that it is correct. You can also put it to 0, then it will also always classify, and the highest score will be, the document will be labeled as such. But this will give some room for improvement, and you can always update your model and retrain it with the adjustments that you make. So the last thing is to put it to active, and then your documents will be classified. But that's not the end state or the end goal of IDP, because classification serves as input for other processes. For example, OCR table extraction. This is a heavy process. It will go through the tables in a document and tries to read it in a different way, usually in Latin languages used in Europe and the Americas. We read from left to right. A table is usually read from top to bottom. So it's a different way, and it becomes a way more heavy process. And we don't always want to use table extraction on all documents, only on a certain type, for example. So in general, we don't have something out of the box. It's still an investment in your data to make it applicable for your domain. We don't have something like out of the box for financial markets or education, but it will serve any domain you want because you're giving the input to it. So one of the examples, actually, Dawn is going to talk about it. We'll use table extraction in a certain area of education. So I'll hand it over to you, Dawn.
Awesome. Thank you, Lars. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Lars, I'm impressed. That was to the T of the time that we practiced. That was very good.
Nice. All right, thank you. So like I said before, what we're going to be looking at today is the transfer credit evaluation process. So, the transcripts come in with the list of the courses taken at that source institution, and the receiving institution is going to be ingesting those courses and making a determination as to what that equates to at our home institution or the receiving institution. So the first step in this is to go ahead and kick off a new evaluation by doing an upload. And you'll be able to see, I'm just going to go in and grab a transcript I have saved on my desktop and drop that in here. So this is my favorite part of the process because what's happening is the system is actually using the optical character recognition and machine learning to process the PDF file. And it's breaking out all that course data. So whereas this maybe previously would have come in on paper or as an image, and someone would have to come in and manually type in all of the data that is on here, it's just breaking it out into a table. So like Lars was explaining, so all that data is already in here. So something that may have taken like 20 or 30 minutes to do before was done in just a few minutes using our IDP technology. All right, so to kick this off, I'm going to go ahead and just put in some student info. We'll do the admit year is 2023. Our student name will be Samwise BMG, and then our admit session is fall. So I've entered all of my student data up here since that is redacted from the transcript example we have. I can come down here and I can zoom in to see that PDF closer and then make any edits at this point in time. So if I wanted to change anything, I can do that here. I'll go ahead and just remove the comma. Okay, and save that. So once I'm finished with that, I'm going to go ahead and click submit. And this is where like our ProcessMaker automation really takes a front seat. This is going, I'm going to go back in here and we'll just look at that record. So I'll open this up, and this is really cool because what our system did, it took courses that had, come in before from, this is Weber State University is the institution. And it said, okay, I know that we've had this in the past and it's equated to this kind of a course at our home institution. So it auto matched all of those courses that it could. So it learns over time through this process what should equate to courses at the home institution from specific source institutions. So it's auto matching all those courses for us. But if I scroll through, I'll see like our Calculus 1 course, it's pending because it didn't find a match in our system for that. And same with our Intro to Philosophy course. So essentially what the system is doing is it's flagging any courses that it didn't find an equivalency for, and it's going to trigger another process for those to go through and make that determination for what they should equate to. All right, so with that, I'll go ahead and log out, and we're going to jump into our email. All right, so in this process, our kind of assumption for what some institutions might do is there might be a student worker, and maybe they do the research for the course, like to retrieve the course descriptions or any information around that course that's available on a website before it goes to the person who's actually going to be making the determination. So if I click in here, it drops me into a window. And this is nice because it's redacted the student data. So should someone be doing this who's part of the process here, they wouldn't see that data if they shouldn't have access to it. So instead of going through the Weber State University catalog, I've just copied some information that I have out open around the course descriptions that come in. All right, so there's my math course, and I want you to note that there's also a selection for which department this is in, and that's going to trigger kind of the routing process after we're done here. So I'm identifying the department, dropping in all of this data, and there is an online database that can pull this data in. That if the institutions have a license for that, we can actually connect to that to skip this step entirely if we can pull that in from there. All right, so I've identified math, and for the philosophy course, I'll just put that in as a general education course. And once I'm finished, I'm going to go ahead and click submit. All right, so now I'll hop back into the email account. And so what the process is doing now is it's pulling like those drop downs where I selected the department. Those are dictating like who should get that course to determine the equivalency. At some institutions, this might be the same person every time. At others, it could be a department chair within that department, or a faculty member, or even an advisor. So it varies, and that can be configured based on what's needed. But yeah, so that is what's happening. So it's just triggering emails to the appropriate reviewers. So we can see here that we have one to the math department because I chose math as one of those. And then the other one is just to a general department. So it gives them a link to click in and determine the equivalency for these courses. Okay. And for this, I just have another user to log in. And for our demo purposes, I'm actually just going to approve both of these as this user. And so I can open this up. You can see it's come in with the data off of that transcript, as well as what the student worker entered for that course. So the faculty member or department chair can review that information and then make a determinacy for what that would equate to at our home institution. So this is our calculus course. All right, so you can see I have a Calculus 1 course, so I'll put that into our subject, and then it populates the remaining information based on what I've selected. And I'll go ahead and submit this. And then I'm going to just hop right into the next one that we have to make an equivalency determination for. And so for this one, intro to philosophy, maybe I'll select no equivalency for this just because maybe we don't have that at our institution. So I'll go ahead and submit that. And so that means the student won't get credit for that one, but they'll get the equivalent of the Calculus 1 course at our institution for that other calculus course that came in. All right, I'm going to log out as Bianca. And I'll go back to our email box. So essentially what you've seen so far is that the system has pulled the data off of that transcript. So we were able to manipulate it and start working with it to drive our process forward. So and then based on what had been learned over time so far for previous equivalencies, the system auto-matched the majority of those courses. They already had, something they equated to in our system that it had learned over time. Then for those 2 courses that didn't yet have an equivalency, it triggered that separate process so that we collected, some information about the course, and then it went to the appropriate department to review that information and make the equivalency determination. And this is something that at some institutions, it takes over a month because you have that manual piece of entering in all of that data off the transcript. And then there's like a manually driven process via email to determine those equivalencies. So you can see this can be a lot faster than what it would have taken before. But we can see too that it triggered at the end after the equivalency was determined. It's sent, so our student, Sam, has gotten an email that their transcript was evaluated. It attached the PDF so that he can look and see what each course came in as and is equated to. We also have some other emails that fired off, and this is all configurable within the system. But so Gina, who was the person who initiated the process, got the notification. They all get the attachment to review. And then we also, like the registrar just gets a copy. So that's kind of the standard process. We could notify more people if needed, but that can all be, customized to what an institution's needs are. So I'm going to go back in and log in as Gina. All right, so now I can see, here's that record I just processed. I can open that up. It's, collected all of this information for what came in, what it was equated to. And this is the record that was, that we just did. I can go through and see what things were auto-matched by the system because it already had an equivalency, and the things that we matched as part of this process or that we didn't match as part of this process. So, so this is cool because now going forward, it knows that Calculus 1 equates to this course at our institution. So the system gets smarter over time. And if that course comes in from Weber State University again, it's going to be auto matched in our system. So that wraps up the transfer credit process. And Michelle, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dawn. That was great. Lars and Ethan, thank you so much for joining us again.